That's true, and our forecast continues to change. So let's check in right now with our chief meteorologist, Dr. Jim Siebert, And we do have a tornado warning, correct?
Yeah, we just got a brand new tornado warning, and they come very quickly. So this just barely came down. So this is down by Winnie in Chambers County until 4:45 p.m. So it's right on the very edge of our viewing area. It's kind of more of a rural area, but it goes right across I-10. So from I-10 almost, and it does go into Liberty County just a little bit as well. So we are seeing there's a storm in there that has some rotation that could possibly produce a tornado on the ground. Now, beyond that, I want you to look at this picture. And there's a couple of things that are a little bit different. Now, here in Liberty County and Chambers County, you still see a lot of red associated with the radar. And anytime you see red, that means more intensity, stronger rain, possibly in this case, possibly a tornado, lightning, and things like that. But it also means typically more violent and even the heaviest of rain. And then elsewhere, you see a lot of yellow, and then you do see more green, but yellow and more of an orange look. Well, still, that is rainfall, and it's steady rain, but it's not quite the same as the torrential rain that we're seeing in a few places there in the eastern part of our viewing area. Yeah, I mean, none of this is good. I'm just trying to point out that there are differences, and you'll find that where we see the steadier rain, it's still an issue because we're putting rain on top of flooding, which is just going to equal more flooding. But it's a little less intense, and all we're looking for is just a little bit of help every now and again to see if we can get a break at some point. And then if you see really south of I-10 right now, we have a few areas that are getting at least a break from some of the rainfall. And again, it's very brief at best, but the flash flood warnings continue. So even though if it's not raining, as you're seeing all these reports, the water is rising all around the area because, again, there's a period of time from the rain falling to its running into the runoff and then going into the watersheds. There's that period of time that we're going to continue to see things rise after the rain has stopped falling. But we are seeing less of the huge torrential rain and the violent rain like what we had last night, where you'd have 6-7 inches of rainfall in 1 hour, which is really actually hard to imagine that kind of energy, and it's different now. So we're talking 2 to 3 inches an hour at this point. We're seeing some of the lighter rains, and still that is a lot of rainfall, but it's somewhat different. A little closer look now of the tornado warning again until 4:45. So we're talking eastern Chambers County, eastern Liberty County. Winnie is included in this area, and it does cross I-10. And then you also see still very heavy rainfall to the north of Cloverleaf. Mount Bellevue seeing that. Liberty County still seeing super heavy rainfall. Up here to the north, you see more of the steady rainfall that I was just talking about. The flash flood warning again for almost this entire area. So it goes up from Conroe to Galveston, Huntsville, all the way down to Lake Jackson. And some of these areas, Corrigan and Huntsville, they were not really getting a lot of heavy rain at first, but now they are. And that's also important to note that the rain totals, the way the showers are coming in will be changing over time. At times it might be a little less violent in nature as far as how that torrential rainfall we've been seeing, but we'll still see that heavy rain. Then you might see a break where it's not raining for a little while and you think, well, maybe we should go somewhere. Still not really a good idea, though, because very quickly those rain bands can come back in, and we still have more rain bands on the horizon for us. But it is changing a little bit. Now, I think what's happening, too, is that the low pressure area is slowly getting closer and closer back to the Gulf of Mexico, which is not good news for anybody. But it does appear that that is going to happen. But the damage has already been done as far as the rain and the flooding. I mean, even if it were to stop raining at this moment and nobody got any more rain, it would still take us weeks to have all this water drain off because it's just incredible amounts of water. And so you see all the outline of the green there. In essence, if you live in Southeast Texas, if you're in Southeast Texas, anywhere in Southeast Texas or in western parts of Louisiana, you are under a flash flood warning. And Louisiana is now getting some of that rain too, okay? So the outer rain bands don't just stop here in Houston. It goes all the way to New Orleans. And so Harvey is so strong, that low pressure is so strong, it's pulling moisture from the southern parts of the Gulf of Mexico and pulling that in, and we're seeing that here. And we're seeing the heavy rain in parts of Louisiana now, so it won't be long. If they keep seeing this kind of rain, they're going to have flash flood warnings as well. But maybe not at the same level that we are having, but it's not too far behind. So we just have to continue to monitor this. It does appear that along the coast, the rain might be just a little less heavy as we head into the early evening hours, but then that's just maybe a brief thing, and so we're going to watch that closely. As you look closely at this picture, you can still see that there's just bubbling going on. Everywhere you see, that is that convection just rising, and maybe not quite as much as it is along the coast, except for you can see that one rain band now that's going to be coming into Houston. You can see the bubbling. As we come even closer, I want you to be able to see how that moisture is just being pulled in. And notice, it's not going in a straight line. You see how it's coming in at a curve? And it's not even that it's coming in a curve. If you just take it and look at one of these bands, it comes in and it's rolling. It's almost rolling on shore as it's rolled. And so as it rolls, that's already rolling and it's spinning. Is it any wonder that we continue to have tornado issues, at least the smaller types of tornadoes, which are still scary and impressive, but the fact that there's so much rotation already happening in all these things. I mean, these clouds are rolling in, and all you have to do is just tilt that roll a little bit, and you've got the spin of a tornado. And that's why the tornado watch continues again until early tomorrow morning. And then to look at it with a little different look here, this was looking at the satellite imagery with just the enhancement. It is still just a gigantic amount of energy that has to go somewhere, and unfortunately for us, it's going into our area. So the latest forecast, and I did just get an update in the last 20 minutes or so from this. The winds are still at 40 miles an hour. Now it's going to the southeast at 2. So it is, if it's not, you can see it is moving, but 2 miles an hour is not very fast. So it's going to take it almost till tomorrow to actually make it back out into the waters of the Gulf. And yes, it does appear it's going to make an appearance in the Gulf of Mexico. The problem with that is that we know that it will then strengthen. The moment it gets closer to its moisture source, it will strengthen. However, it might not get far enough out into the Gulf to where it is able to grow at a rate that as it is closer to the coast. Now what happens, because if you're right next to the shore, there's what's called friction. When a storm is out in the middle of the water, like say in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, there's no trees, there's no elevation, everything's flat as far as it goes, and so the wind is always stronger out on the ocean. Have you ever taken a cruise? You walk outside, the wind is always blowing when you're out in the middle of the ocean. But when it's right up next to the ground and to land, a couple of things. One, it's drawing on air in that is dealing with the friction. So the ground, the elevation, the buildings, trees, that slows the wind down. Anything that slows the wind down is going to slow down a hurricane. Just like for us as human beings, if you have asthma, your body slows down the ability of being able to breathe oxygen and then to move it around your body. Okay, well, a hurricane's the same thing. As soon as its breathing is being inhibited, it struggles. Now, it takes a lot to take the breathing away from it, and then it would, fall apart completely. And that's if it moved far away from the ocean, far away from its moisture source, then it would lose more of its energy faster. But in this case, if it goes just barely offshore, it'll be kind of halfway on, halfway off, and not being able to breathe perfectly. But then, and the chance, though, here's the thing that we have to watch, too, and I don't think this is going to happen, but it's in the realm of possibility that it goes out into the Gulf far enough that it became even stronger, but that's pretty slim. The chances of that are slim as we look at the forecast. So it is expected to then turn right back on and then make landfall right here over Houston on Wednesday. Now, if you remember a couple of days ago when we had the forecast that it might do this, the forecast was very different. I mean, it was just bouncing around, and then it made a straight line to Houston. And then at one point, it was going to go possibly to the left, and then it was going to go maybe closer to Galveston. I mean, so the forecast will continue to change because there's still uncertainty, except that at this point, because the models are really beginning to agree that it is going to go to the right, it is going to probably come pretty close to Houston again as a tropical storm. There's nothing good about that in any sense of the word, and then slowly move up to the north after that. So what should you be doing right now? And again, you need to continually ask yourself this question or these questions because everything's going to continue to change. The important thing right now is stay where you are. You've heard our officials tell us that. Anybody that we continue to interview, they say just stay where you are unless your water is coming into your house and you have to leave to save your life. because you're only going to put yourself at more risk going someplace else. Now, we're seeing a lot of this, and we always do, but I'm going to tell you again, stay out of the water. The water is not clean water. It is not like at a lake. It's not like the Gulf of Mexico, which sometimes is not that clean anyway. It's got sewage sometimes in it. It's got everything that was sitting around in the grass, on the yards, garbage cans, bacteria. The list goes on, right? Fire ants, snakes, all that stuff is in there, okay? It's just not a place to play. It just isn't. And also, if you've seen a couple of people who've been out in the water walking and they think they're fine, you can't see what's on the ground. You can't see what you're going to walk on. That's dangerous. Don't forget that we still have a tornado threat at this point, and if a tornado warning goes and it happens on your phone and you hear it, that's not the time to go to the window. That's the time to go to the center of your house. Just keep that in mind. Lastly, the last couple of things is to check on your neighbors. There's a lot of people who actually might be going through this experience all by themselves, and it could be actually terrifying to them. If you have elderly neighbors that live next to you, go check on them real quick, see how they're doing, and help each other. And this is something that I will say that we've been seeing a lot of, and this is something I love about Houstonians and something I love about Texans. When we have a big event like this, people aren't looting. They're out helping each other. You have people showing up with boats saying, where do you want me? Who can I help? I love to see that. And we all need to be more like that to help each other out. Especially if you have in a neighborhood, and this is going to happen, folks, there are some neighborhoods right now that are dry that won't be by tomorrow as the waters continue to rise. It would be a big help to first responders if you know who your neighbors are and where they are. If you have neighbors that have evacuated and then, let's say the flooding comes in, when the first responders show up, and you can say, they evacuated, you know what, they're still in their house and they need to be rescued. That way the first responders can go right to the people they need to help and they don't waste their time on a house that might be empty. So the more you know about your neighbors in your neighborhood, actually that can save lives and that can save times. And it's also just a nice thing to do. And the last thing, I'm going to keep saying this probably to the rest of my life, all right? Stay calm, stay alert, and be wise. If you just do those three things, if you're calm, even when I know it's scary when the water is coming into your car or into your house, but if you can remain at least somewhat calm, you're going to have a better chance of making a better decision. You need to be alert, though. Most of the time when people flood out their cars, they weren't well, first of all, they didn't stay put, but second of all, they weren't alert on what was going on around them, and they made a terrible mistake. So if you're calm and alert to your changing conditions, and I promise you the conditions are going to change, you're going to be wise. And when you make wise decisions, you're going to have a better chance of getting through this better than the other way. So let's do those things, and we'll continue to go through this and work through this together as Houstonians and Texans.
Thank you, Dr. Jim, and we'll continue to be right here with you.